The best techs are good communicators. Today on BCP. Hey there, Proud Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. It's the show all about having and living the blue collar business dream. If you have a dream for where you want to take your business, I believe you can get there. Taylor and I want to be a part of that journey to your success. Thank you so much for listening every single week. My name is Carter Harkins, and here with me is Taylor Hill.
And I just feel like a sidekick. I'm always here.
You just call shotgun.
Shotgun.
Well, we've got a great show, I think, but first I want to tell you about our sponsor, Closing Commander, the automated sales follow-up system that closes up to 20% or more of the open estimates in your business. I want to encourage you to check out the website. We've actually got a new website. It looks really good. I'm proud of it. It's go to www.closingcommander.com. Click the pop-up right there on the homepage. You can schedule a 30-minute demo and a strategy call just to see exactly how and where and who and what and all the other particulars, how the sales system is going to fit into your existing sales process. It plugs right there in the end at the sales follow-up stage. It's the one part that I've not seen service businesses and contractors do well. This automates it for you to make it that much more effective. And if you use the link today in the show notes in today's episodes, when you choose a plan, you're going to get your first 30 days of that plan at absolutely no charge. I want to encourage you to do it now. ClosingCommander.com. All right, so we're talking again with Brandi Biswell today.
Love it.
This was I think, a really good conversation about making sure that technical employees who are in the field and doing, they're troubleshooting, they're solving technical problems. They're the muscle and the brains of the operation, but oftentimes those are the employees who have the hardest time communicating.
Yeah.
Especially in a sales role, helping a customer understand a very technical something that's going on and communicating that in a way that it can be understood. And not only understood, but that can prompt proper action from the customer to be willing to pay what it takes in order to solve that problem and make their lives better. So I think it's worth talking about. So listen to this quote. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
So, we all think that we're good communicators, which in itself can be a problem. I think part of the reason is because we see so clearly in our own heads what it is that we know. And when we try to convey that to someone, we just can't imagine a scenario in which somebody else can't see it as clearly as we do.
Yeah.
And because we can't imagine that, we sometimes fail to communicate clearly, and that comes at a real cost. So I want to know, Taylor, do you think, first of all, that that it's possible to train someone to be a better communicator? And then I have a follow-up to that.
Okay, so unequivocally, I think that's how you say that.
Unequivocally, yeah.
Yeah. Probably 10 years ago, I would have said, sure, not a problem. So let me break this down a little bit about what I think. I think the answer to that is yes, but.
Okay.
And the reason is I think there are people who have natural strengths in communication, and I think there are people who don't. Now, does that mean that you can't improve on communication no matter where you fit on that scale? No, I think everybody can improve on their communication. But to take somebody that really struggles with communication and have unrealistic expectations of where they need to be, I think is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to identify communication as a skill and realize that there are people that you can train to be better at that skill, but there may be some people in your business that you may not want to put out there on the front lines to do the sales piece. And it's just matching them up. It doesn't mean that they don't have a place in your business or they don't have a job, or they may be phenomenal technicians and problem solving and have phenomenal just other skills that they are very naturally built for.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't think that they could improve, but I'm not sure that you can make them a star. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I agree. So my follow-up question then is, if you think it can be trained, at least to make someone, who's not doing a good job in communicating, at least do a passing job of communicating, then what does that training look like? Any idea how to help somebody overcome a tendency toward miscommunication or failure to communicate, the assumption that, they should just know that, those kinds of things. And we see this at the leader level as well as the employee level.
Oh, yeah.
How do you help somebody come to realize not everybody knows what you know, and you're not doing as good a job communicating what you know as you think you are?
So the first part of that would be self-realization. I mean, looking at yourself in the mirror and really listening to what you say and how you say it. It's amazing when I tell somebody, I don't have a clue what you just said. And you know me, if you use a word or anybody around here uses a word I don't know, it's like, stop, tell me what that word means.
Right.
Before we go any further, what in the world does that word mean? And sometimes I get looked at because we got some wordy people here.
Yeah, no, I'm one of them. Yeah.
That look at me like, what? You don't know what that word means? It's like, no. And the way you use it didn't help.
Mm.
And so part of it is understanding that not everybody is as educated as everybody else.
Right. Well, I'm not educated anymore in a high school degree, but or diploma.
Yes, you are,
but
because you are self-educated.
I love words and what I've had to realize personally, and not and language, and not trying to take this away, your explanation. I'm not trying to interrupt you here, but to explain, what I've realized is that because I enjoy language so much, I try to make it too flowery or too clever. And what happens is I'm too clever by half and end up sabotaging my ability to communicate clearly and effectively. Part of good communication is clarity, right?
Exactly.
And when I obfuscate what I'm saying, there's a word for you, right? When I obfuscate what I'm trying to say by being overly, wordy, then I'm actually sabotaging what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and everything needs to be simple. Clarity, the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Usually saves the day.
Mm-hmm.
And is it fun? When I'm writing, I love turn of phrase. I love that. But I also realize I'm not entertaining people here.
Yeah.
I'm explaining.
Right.
And so that's the other part of communication I think we have to really think about.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? What is the purpose of our communication? The purpose should always be the other person. And I think a lot of times in our communication, our purpose ends up being us. So if my purpose is to be right, then that's not a good purpose in communication. Because my purpose really should be, how am I explaining in this moment the thing I need to explain?
Yeah. So that it's
this
clear.
Other person can understand, and we can now further the conversation.
Absolutely.
Because if it's only about me being right, then that turns into an argument.
So there was a great article in Forbes written by Dan Brenner, who is president and founder of the Latimer Group, and his whole entire focus is persuasive communication. He wrote this article for Forbes called "The True Cost of Poor Communication." And I'll just summarize real quickly. He talks about specifically not what poor communication is, but how to recognize it by what it actually does, right? So how do we most often see the cost of communication failure? He thinks the number one reason is lack of focus. When you look at your people and they don't know what to do, they don't know what to focus on, they don't know what the priority is, it's because of poor communication. The second is failure of purpose. When no one knows and can't communicate what we're doing and why, it's a failure of communication. And that's one way to see it and know it. When there's a lack of innovation, when you're in a meeting and nobody is moving away from the rut They're all communicating in a style and a rut, and convinced that the problem we're facing today is the same problem we've always faced, and therefore it's the same solution. There's no innovation, and that good communication brought to that can correct that and spur innovation. But when there's a lack of innovation, oftentimes it's because of poor communication. Number 4 is a drop in morale. When people are just bummed, oftentimes it's because there's lack of focus, lack of purpose, no innovation. We're in a rut and we know it. We're just same old, same stuff, just a different day. And that morale can definitely take a hit when there's poor communication. And the final one was a loss of credibility. And I thought, wow, what do you mean by that? Loss of credibility. And he talks about specifically the ability to express yourself confidently and persuasively has a direct effect on your ability to effectively accomplish your goals. And when you see it clearly, when you can communicate that clearly, you're automatically more credible.
Yeah.
And I thought about this. You listen to the talking heads. If somebody is expressing an opinion that's different than my own, if they can't articulate it clearly, I discount them immediately. But if that person, and there are a few that hold very different ideas than my own, but they are so clear and they are so persuasive in what they say that their credibility for their viewpoint is through the roof, and it really challenges me. And I think that's what's required in purposeful, good communication. So I thought these were great and very insightful, a good list of things that happen when we fail to communicate well.
Well, and I'll just add this one thing, because I know we want to get to Brandi, but I think it's really, really important to know, and almost everybody that I've said this to has thought a minute and said, I totally agree, that 95 to 98% of every problem we have, whether internally in our businesses or externally with customers, can be linked right back to communication.
Yep. Yeah. And whether it's the cause of the problem or it's just so wrapped up in bad communication that, it's caused the problem to be much bigger than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Well, I am excited to hear what Brandi Biswell has to say about this particular subject and her experiences in a service business as an owner in that business. So let's go to her. Let's talk with her about her experiences in training her employees, her technicians, to be better communicators and what that looks like. And then we'll come back after.
You bet.
Brandi Biswell, one of our favorite people on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me again.
I want to talk today about something that I know you'll be able to help us with. You're a people person, and when you have employees, techs in the field who are very focused on a specific technical part of their job, they eat, sleep, and breathe the tools and the trade. How do you help people like that understand that there's a relationship component here at work, that these customers we're serving are actually people, and the things we're there to fix may not be people, but the reasons we're there are because people called us to serve them in this capacity. How do you help those people, those employees who are very tech focused? How do you help them with the people skill part?
Well, I think it starts from day one, with training from day one. So from that very first day when they're starting with your company, putting them with your really great people out in the field, so that they can be mentored by them and see how they interact with the customer. People don't really love role playing. I don't love role playing myself, but I think it's important to do. And so doing that during your staff meetings or during your training, and role playing real situations that you've had in your company where you've been trying to articulate, a particular problem, maybe with a chimney, if that's your industry, to the customer in a relatable manner, and role playing with them so that they're comfortable and they've practiced it before they actually do it in front of the live homeowner. And then, just making sure that you've got that person in the right, to use a cliche business term, the right seat on the bus.
Right.
So that making sure that they are going to have some of those people skills, because I've gotten in situations where I have hired that tech person, not realizing that they didn't have the people skills. And so then we had to transition them to a different role, or ultimately they those people skills, and that wasn't a skill that we were able to be able.
Brandi, are you there?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you a little bit there.
Oh, so sorry.
No, I don't know what happened. It was absolutely the first time, which is amazing for Skype.
So I was saying that, so then we've had the opposite happen, where we've had a technician who's too people oriented and gets a little too emotionally invested. And so then we have to back off and teach him how to back away a little bit. So there can be both sides of it. And did you hear the part where I was talking about, if you have that technician, sometimes if they're not in the right seat on the bus, sometimes it is you have to transition them to a different role or let them go if they're not going to be able to gain those people skills or learn those people skills.
Yeah. One of the things that we know in our business is that, and we're in a technical business as well, and it's not a trade business, but it's a business that requires a great deal of technical understanding in order to deliver a service well. And customers, oftentimes, that's opaque to them. They don't see any of that. It's the equivalent of the parts of the chimney that are hidden behind the wall, or up in the attic, or outside, or in behind or in the flue, and it's completely invisible to the homeowner. So being able to find ways of relating technical information to a customer is where communication skills really come in. And to understand how to communicate with people, you have to be able to put technical details into or at a level of understanding that the customer has. Because ultimately, the only thing that a customer understands is how you made them feel about the problem that you're there to serve. They don't understand the technology of it. They don't understand the problem and the solution so much as they understand how you made them feel as you explained to them something that maybe they'll only just grasp enough to understand that, okay, I trust this person who's telling me I need to spend money to solve this problem. And because I trust them and they tell me that it's something that I need to do, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, even though I don't fully understand what it is that they're doing. Do you encounter that sort of same experience in your business?
We do. And one of the things that we've done is we have, we call them placemats because they look like placemats that you would find at like a diner. But they're laminated sheets that have, for example, the construction of a chimney, and they have a chimney crown, and they have a chimney cap, and they have a smoke chamber. And they have all these big words that we use that the average homeowner doesn't understand. And that way, the technician, when he's going over the findings, he can pull that out and he can show them a picture of a chimney crown and explain it as this concrete top on top of your brick that we call the chimney crown. And so that he can use those plain English language along with the chimney verbiage, along with the visual picture, because we all learn in different ways. I'm a very visual learner, to better explain what's going on with their system and why it needs addressed. And I think that goes a long way to helping with their people skill muscles, just having that tool in front of them.
Yeah, most of the time, what I say is we all have to interpret a lot of the things that we do when we're talking to other people because they don't speak the same language. So doing that in pictures, doing that, in a simpler language, and be able to do those analysis, kind of analogies, and when you go through and you do an analysis and turn that into analogy to explain what you found is really, really important. So do you guys go through some of that to where you're actually walking your techs in training in the role playing through that interpretive type thing?
We do. So we do the role playing where we will act out a real life situation. A lot of times I'll pretend I'm the homeowner and I will have them explaining, and then we'll reverse it to where I'm the chimney technician and they're the homeowner. And so I'm explaining how I would sell it to them or explain it to them. And giving them the good news, and then here's the bad news. And so we do a lot of that role playing. We have them watch sales videos. We're on the CVC coaching platform where they can get on there and watch actual training videos. Because I think that role playing and that practice, and then, as I stated in the beginning, sending some of the less seasoned technicians out with those seasoned technicians who have had time to perfect it. And then just reminding them too, because I know, coming into this field and trying to learn the chimney language, it was much like when you're a brand new to the healthcare field, or when you're trying to explain to a patient who has diabetes or hypertension and you're using all those big words and they're just looking at you because you're not putting it in their language. And you forget about that over time and you revert back to the big impressive language. So reminding the technicians from time to time, remember what it was like when you started and you didn't know what a chimney crown was and you didn't know what a chimney cap was. That's how your average homeowner feels.
And communicating that in a way that doesn't talk down to them, that doesn't demean their lack of understanding. No one can understand anything until it's been presented to them as knowledge or taught to them. So I think having empathy is important. That's a people skill. So let's talk about that for a minute. The ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. How vital do you find that as a people skill tool for technicians in the field?
Oh, it's critical. They have to understand what the homeowner is going through, and every situation is so different. We may sometimes get out there to that appointment and, their grandmother just passed away that morning. And so that changes the whole dynamic of the appointment. And so having empathy for that situation, or they may be the homeowner that, just drained their last cent of their paycheck on the new roof, and now we're telling them that they have tons of chimney damage as well that needs addressed, and maybe that should have been addressed before the roof. And so that empathy piece is a huge component.
How do you teach that?
I don't know that you can teach it. I think you can role play it, but I think it's something that you have to assess from the beginning if the technician possesses that from the start. I don't think it's a skill that everyone possesses in the manner that they need to be right for this position.
Yeah. I would definitely agree.
I would too. That's why I asked the question, because I've never known that you could, but I thought if anybody could, Brandi could.
Well, you can. I don't know that it can be.
I figured it out.
I don't know if it can be taught. That's definitely a philosophical question for another time. But I know it can be learned, because I've definitely had opportunities to suddenly realize that part of my inability to communicate with something that needs, someone that needs to be communicated. What am I trying to say? To communicate something to someone is a lot of times it comes down to not having empathy for their particular viewpoint. And when I can take a minute and see their viewpoint, suddenly things come into relief and I can realize, oh, I see where I'm getting off track here. I need to correct and go this direction. So, I know it can be learned. Whether it can be taught by someone else, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Go ahead.
No, that's it.
No,
I think just understanding too that, that to us, the chimney is so important because that's what we do on a daily basis. That's our job in my business. And so that's so important to us. But to the average homeowner, their dog might have died that morning. They might be starting a new job tomorrow. Their mind isn't necessarily on the chimney, or that's not necessarily the most important thing to them at that time. So assessing where they're at that particular moment as well, and understanding it's not all about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
In terms of sales, people skills, let's talk about the selling part, because that ultimately techs in the field in most businesses are the front line for presenting invoices or estimates rather, and selling the customer on something that they need. So communication and people skills plays a large role there, but it's also one of the more difficult things to find in a technician. The ability to sell. You find people who are exceptional problem solvers and technical proficiency, but selling is scary to them. It's something they don't want to do. In your business, Brandi, what are you looking for in that balance between technical skills, people skills, the ability to not only assess what needs to be done and how to solve a problem, but also be able to sell the customer on that?
Well, it's something that we're constantly assessing, and also with every appointment that we take in the office, we have learned our technicians' strengths and weaknesses. And so we're not just filling the schedule. We're trying to match those strengths and weaknesses of that technician up with that customer. And I think that's very important.
Wow.
And so that really requires some work on the office part as well, to get to know those technicians and know those strengths and weaknesses so that we can put them with the right technician, match them correctly. So, if I have one technician who he's just a natural born salesman, he'll call in to book work with a client, and I can't hardly get a word in to even book the appointment because they're off talking about the dog and the furniture. And he's just great. He's a great people person. He's a natural born salesman. He's also, though, a bigger guy, and he's very good if I have a client who I think's maybe going to be a little rougher around the edges. He's great to put with them because he just instantly creates that rapport. And so I will automatically try to put those clients with him. I have another technician who's not the greatest salesman, but he is a great investigator and he's a great troubleshooter. And so if we have a direct vent insert unit that's having troubles, I'll match that with him because he's going to be great at investigating that and solving that for the client.
Knowing the skills of the people you have and then matching them up. So now we're really talking about that teamwork, right? And not just the people skills of the technician, but just how important it is to have office staff who have people skills and intuitions to know how to create that symbiotic relationship there.
Synergy,
and,
if you will. It's great.
Such a powerful idea. I had not really considered the service that the office staff are able to do for the technicians to make their job run more smoothly and to give them the best opportunity of succeeding and serving a customer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they definitely go hand in hand. And that's where, just your office culture, having those happy hours and those after work, spending time together outside of work as a team plays a key role in getting to know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, that's culture. And those skills can be taught that way. I think culture is transmitted. I think people, immediately start seeing how they need to communicate about certain things based on how other people in the culture are doing that very thing. So that's an awesome point to make as we end this. A great call, Brandi.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for taking time today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was challenging. She's got some good things to say, but really hitting home on the fact that it's imperative. If you're going to have technicians in the field that interact with customers, those employees absolutely have to know how to communicate what they need to communicate. They're front lines. I mean, you don't get any more front lines than that.
Yeah, and one of the things that was really interesting was talking about taking somebody and pairing them up with somebody who's really good. Yep. Just the mentoring, the training, that kind of thing. I know at one point we were hiring people to come in and help you, and I ended up with all of them helping me. And I'm not trying to say this to be derogatory. I just know that there was some. Yeah,
that was a failure of leadership on my part, not a failure on any employee's part.
No. But what I'm trying to get at is you really struggled with the training part, even though you were the perfect person to do the mentoring and to show them. So how did you overcome that piece?
At some point in my journey as a leader, I started realizing that I had this expectation that every single person that worked with me should just know what I knew from the start and, be able to do the job competently the way I would want it done, read my mind and just do it. And I realized as a leader that what I was doing was robbing people of an opportunity to grow. And that if I worked with someone where they were when they came in and helped them understand how I wanted things done, but why we do it certain ways, and trained them to be competent in that role, that I was actually not just helping myself by replicating my skills and training someone else to do what I do, but I was actually robbing them of the opportunity of growing and leading themselves, of growing in their own career and then leading other people in our organization, as a result of what they knew. And so it really, for me, the shift goes all the way back to a fundamental understanding and shift in the way that I viewed leadership. Leadership is about giving other people the opportunity to succeed. And we're going to be talking about this in another episode coming up, but so if my role as their leader is to help them succeed, that means I have to give them the training necessary for them to, equip them to succeed.
Right.
And it gave me a lot more patience for the activity, but also a lot more enjoyment of the process. So I was not looking at it as something I dreaded, but something I actually look forward to because I saw it as an investment in a person rather than a hassle and a process that I wished I just could find somebody that didn't need all this stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was the real shift for me and has really changed my thinking about training in general, the systems involved and the work that it takes and meeting with someone and, being available for troubleshooting and problem solving and everything else and using those opportunities as training opportunities all the way along.
Isn't it interesting though? In the beginning, it was all about the tasks.
Yeah, it was, I can do this faster than it takes me
quicker,
to explain it to you.
Yeah.
So let me just do it.
Yeah.
Go do something else. And so it was and that was unfair of me as a leader. And I recognize that now. I didn't at the time, but at the time it was just a full court press. I mean, our business had just blown up and such a fast rate of growth. It was challenging to stand back and be patient enough to really let good training take place and evolve in our organization. It was just, you're coming to me with a fire and I know I've got the bucket to put it out. Stand aside. Let me throw this water on that problem. You know?
No, I am not at any way, shape or form saying that you didn't have reasons for doing it.
Right.
I'm just saying you did make a fundamental shift. I mean,
I've grown as a leader. Absolutely.
It was you at some point, a switch clicked. Yeah. And it was thrown. Because your entire attitude about training people changed.
Yeah. Well, and this is a testament to doing this show too. I firmly believe one of the best ways to learn anything is to teach it to someone else. And as we've brought training and leadership knowledge to our listeners, I've also absorbed quite a bit of that too, right? Yeah. And relearned lessons I thought I had already learned. And seen through fresh eyes something I'd never seen before. And one of those things was that aspect of leadership that leaders create. The purpose of leadership is to create new leaders. And if I'm simply looking at what I do at a task level and every person who comes to me with an issue as being an interruption to my true goal, I'm failing to be the leader that I need to be in our business. So yeah, it's been a growing experience for me. It's been a great one.
Yeah.
And I found that as I focused more on the true purpose of leadership for me, the more rewarding the job has become, the more rewarding a business ownership has become.
Yeah. And now we do what Brandi does is we've got guys in our organization that train.
Yes.
Because we no longer have to.
Right.
So,
and that's only happened as we've decided we needed to replicate ourselves and create an opportunity for other people to succeed and lead.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring that up really because I want the listeners who have small businesses to understand at some point you've got to let other people lead.
Yeah.
Your job really is to raise people up in your business who can lead, raise people up in your business who can train others, raise those people up and let them really help you grow that business because they want to. They are dying for opportunity to help.
Yeah.
We're wired that way as human beings.
We are.
So we need to let other people do that. And it's great. And that's really why I brought it up because I thought it was a perfect time.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a perfect story to illustrate that. All right. So we're going to wrap this one up. I do want to read, we've got some feedback I want to share. This actually came through the iTunes store. This is a review on our podcast in the Apple Podcasts app. This is from Aaron Zambrana. Hey, I know this guy. 5-star review titled Sage Advice from Guys Who Have Been There and Done That. He says, if you own and operate a blue-collar business and are looking for ways to grow your organization, you're looking in the right place. I've been a long-time listener of this podcast and can say it is one of the best ones I've found that caters to us, the guys in the trucks in the trenches, sweating to make it happen. The biggest takeaway is that you, the owner, must be willing to pay the price to grow and develop yourself before you can expect your business to grow in any sustainable manner. The Blue Collar Proud podcast is, quote, class in session on the go for me. Keep up the great work, Carter and Taylor. Aaron, thanks so much for those
Thanks.
words of encouragement, man. I appreciate that so much. You have no idea. And if you're listening to this and you'd like to let us know how we're doing, we would love it if you do what Aaron did. Take a minute to leave us a review over in iTunes. More reviews there means that we understand what you need from us. It helps us understand that what we're bringing to you is serving you well to help you reach your dreams. And it'll help us stay plugged in and motivated to continue bringing good content to you when we have it. Thanks, Aaron, for that. Appreciate that. Also, don't forget that you can download our free show app in the Apple App Store and on Google Play. Great content, some bonuses and special offers there. Special offers just like the one we talked about today with Closing Commander. Why don't you go to closingcommander.com, sign up for the free demo, learn how this automated sales follow-up process can complete your existing sales process just by adding it to your system. You'll make 20% more, up to 20% more. You'll close more. I can't talk. You'll close 20% more of your open estimates using Closing Commander. So check that out. Also, just a quick note, you can still buy a copy of our book, Blue Collar Proud, 10 Principles for Building a Kick-Ass Business You Love. It's available at Amazon.com. And if you buy it and read it and you liked it, then leave us a review over there as well. But most of all, just come hang out with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. It's just a nice, cozy, comfortable place to ask advice, share things, make each other laugh, and just hang out as business owners of contractor and service businesses. And you can also find out about all the other places where you can connect with us by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. And that wraps it up for this episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. As always, Taylor and I want to thank you so much for listening every single week. Also, big shout out to the people that make this show happen every week. That would be Aaron Blaze, our technical director, Jessica Wynn, our show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our community manager. Until next time, remember, it takes the same energy to build a business you hate as it does to build one that you're freaking proud of. So why not go out and build it the Blue Collar Proud way? We'll see you again for more right here next time. See you, bud.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.